Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a nice, beautiful day out there, but it's still a little cold, which is good. I can handle that. I can go for a walk in a jacket and it'll be fine. Just realized my cough feels like it's down low, so that's good too. Looks like it's a good week. Let me go ahead and get the captions turned off here. Hey, and I just want to let you know before we get started, appreciate you showing up early and on time. Thank you for doing that. I've got lives lined up all week, like I always do, unless I'm sick. So the rest of this week, I'll be talking about the Army today, DHS tomorrow, I think VA on Wednesday, Thursday will be HHS, and Friday is the Air Force. And all of them have the same theme as today. It's really looking into them as essential services. And so if you haven't done so already, make sure you register. Let me know you're coming to those. It lets other people know that these activities exist. I'd love to see you in there. All right, let me turn this guy off, and we're going to get rocking and rolling in today's training. If you're paying attention to the news, then you know that with the Trump administration and with DOGE being put in place, it's hitting government contracting really hard, but it's hitting everybody really hard. And I think this is a piece of news that across the country people are tracking. It is amazing to me sometimes how some stuff could happen around the country, like the Super Bowl, for example, and there'll be just tens and tens of millions of people who don't know who's playing or that Super Bowl's even going on or something. But with this, I'm hoping people are really tracking on what's going on with the Trump administration, because what the federal government does kind of impacts the entire country at different areas, whether it's parks or the VA, which we'll talk about on Wednesday, et cetera. But DOGE cuts, this move for efficiency, cost savings, et cetera, those cuts are impacting everybody. If you watch the news, you're seeing that the goal probably is several 100,000 federal employees being fired from different agencies. And if you haven't heard me talk before, I'm not here to discuss the right or the wrong of it. It is certainly brutal. I definitely I think it's wrong the way that it's being done, but these cuts are being done, and efficiency is just a normal exercise any organization goes through. But when it happens, it's really tough. But it's not just happening to federal employees. DOGE is hammering contractors. And so we saw it early on with DEI contracts on the diversity, equity, and inclusion side of the house. And then things that were related to that and sliding into training. And then this past week, you'll see me talk more about it. I might have mentioned it in here, but Fed Scoop put out this article, which was just an amazing thing for me, where GSA is driving forward with agency heads this cut of $65 billion in contracts with large primes. So Deloitte, Booz Allen, Leidos, GDIT, companies like that, right? The top 10 most winningness, I don't know if that's a word, government contractors, they're getting hit. And when they get hit, it rolls down into small businesses. I did an article in my newsletter this morning, and I was talking about potentially 19 billion of the cuts, 19 billion of it might even be small businesses, because we tend to be 30%. So these things are happening out there, and the customers I work with are struggling to figure out what's happening. People in our community are struggling to figure out what's happening. They're coming to me, asking me a lot of questions. And so I just want to share with you the guidance that I'm sharing with them. And one caveat that we should all be paying attention to, right, is that none of us know what's going on out there. We can observe and see the things as they're happening, but even in the federal government, even the leaders of agencies, not the top political people, but even the average leader within an agency in Congress, they don't really know what's going on. They see what happened, but they don't really see what's going to happen. But there is one thing that is predictable, and it's this drive towards essential over non-essential, which we'll talk about, and it's the theme of today's conversation, and frankly, all 4 days, the rest of the week. And so I'm going to talk about that and talk about we need to be seeing essential services within the Army and how we can go after those. I did want to tell you about my favorite business book is this one, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. That's why it's in reach of my hands at all times, right? But my favorite book for the moment related to the situation is this one called Who Moved My Cheese? If you haven't read this book, read it. Literally, my 11-year-old picked it up 2 days ago and just read it on his own again. He's like, I want to go back into that. I want to see that lesson. And I have read it to them twice before. But the idea behind Who Moved My Cheese, if you equate it to what's going on in government contracting, is that we government contractors used to have this contracting station. We'd walk up to it. It just keeps spitting out contracts. We were able to grab them. It was really reliable. It was pretty predictable. We'd get a 5-year contract. We could expect that 5-year contract to go, 5 years. That stuff's kind of all gone. And as the book talks about Who Moved My Cheese, well, you can be like Hem and Haw. These two characters are focused on the cheese no longer coming out, or the contracts no longer coming out, and staying right there. And what I call staying right there being 2024 way of doing business. Or you can look forward and go, you know what? The cheese, the contracts, it's gone. Somebody moved it. I need to head into the maze of the federal market and go figure out, where are those contracts? Where is that cheese? So if that's what you're looking for, is kind of a positive way of looking at tactical tips among all this chaos, put find my cheese in the chat. How's that sound for a good little tagline as we get started? Find my cheese. And as you do that, the cheese, as we go forward, is going to be essential requirements within the essential function areas within the Army. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So throw Find My Cheese in the chat. Give me a little feedback. Let me know that you're out there and you're going to have fun in training, as well as get these tips. Okay. Today's training, I'm going to break this down. Essential services in the Army. I call it to DOGE proof your company in 2025. And what I mean by this is fundamentally DOGE is going after everything that they or agencies consider non-essential, and they're not going after what's essential at the moment, right? Unless it's whole agencies like Department of Education, that's just going to gut it. But for the most part, the major agencies out there, that's the play we're looking at. And so I want to start with the Army's essential functions. These are mission critical function areas that if funding, something happens to funding, these still happen. So we'll talk about that more in a minute. But first thing I'm going to talk about that. Second thing I'm going to talk about is, if you have current contracts, I want to talk to you about how to protect your contracts against DOGE. DOGE is coming for you. If you think it's not, then your strategy is to be unprepared. It's much better to sit there and do risk management, to think the risk will happen and figure out how to mitigate it if it does, get another contract, or avoid it completely, right? I'm missing one in there. Somebody tell me my 3 risk management ones. It's like avoid it, mitigate it, and something else. It could be accept it, but that's not right. And then the third thing I want to talk about is just how do you find opportunities that are essential opportunities? How do you go out and create them? I've got 2 examples of current customers. Well, actually, one's a customer, one's just a person who's been in our community a while. I reached out, I was talking to him, and I gave him idea. So I'm going to give you that same idea that he and I have been talking about. But how do you look and create essential contracts that your company might be able to go after? By the way, we have over 100 people in the training live today. This isn't just training, it's a network. So make sure you're introducing your company. Donde sos muy cueso. Oh, God, Jay, you would think I'd be better at speaking Spanish. Anyways, put your company name and your core competency, just 2 or 3 words. Don't put a big chat, right? 2 or 3 words, because if you put big text, nobody reads it. But if you put a little small line, like Jerry there, we provide financial management, accounting, and audit services. That's really good, right? I can kind of see that. Okay, if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce and co-founder of GovCon in a Box. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a government contractor after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting, no matter what's going on, it's not a secret. It's just a process. A process is A to Z. And when we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. At the moment, I'm kind of refining what the process is for federal sales out here, because there is a lot of changes. And the way it was done last year is not the way it's being done this year. And so that's really important for us to track. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, connect with me here on LinkedIn. If you send me a connection request, not a follow request, make sure you put a little note. Hey, saw you in the training. Love to connect. If you're on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, come over here. Make sure you're subscribing to my newsletter, Government Contracting Success Newsletter. I put out some tips this morning in my newsletter talking about how you can kind of DOGE-proof your company. It's what I'm going to dive into today. And then last thing is tomorrow's training. If DHS is a target agency or department of yours, I'm going to go into the same topic tomorrow, essential services in DHS, and how to kind of go after those. All right, that's what we got in front of us. We're going to drive pretty fast because I got 30 minutes. I got 20 minutes left. And I want to start with just an explanation of what's the difference between essential and non-essential. Because I get people literally just this morning put a comment in, what's essential services. This is, for the most part, this is not just somebody guessing or opinion. It's a pretty well-defined thing within federal agencies. And I'm going to talk about it further down in this slide for the Army. But basically, essential services are ones that are vital to the success of that agency's mission. And it doesn't matter whether that mission is the Army, which we're talking about today, or the Department of Veterans Affairs, which primary mission is going to be healthcare for the VA, the vets, et cetera, right? Whatever is tied to it. Non-essential are tasks that could easily be cut if the spending is broken down. One other way to think about essential and non-essential is essential are mission critical tasks or function areas within an agency like the Army. Non-essential are more support. And again, I've got this slide, and the next one talks about examples of non-essential, so you can understand that. Last thing I'll say about this is I've done all sorts of training in 2024 when we had government shutdown or threats of government shutdown. And I was trying to explain to people back then why I always go after essential contracts personally. Like my last company, all we had were essential contracts. The government shutdown never impacted us because we targeted only essential tasks. But every agency, for the most part, every agency has a document that describes essential and non-essential work and employees within the federal government and contract program type work. They define that in a document. So go find that, go look at my previous training, and you can find that. If you go to my LinkedIn profile, I have a featured section. The middle featured thing has previous trainings. And if you go in there, you'll be able to, just browse down, you'll find it. All right, the last thing I had at the top there is that I just wanted to say, this is not unusual to the federal government. I've been reading and convincing people to read. And when I say read, in this case, I mean listen. There's a book called The Phoenix Project, and it's one of the best books out there for just understanding, especially in this case, understanding prioritization in a business or an organization, essential versus non-essential, how you look at what you do and what's important to the organization. And in a Phoenix Project, it really opens up your mind to how the commercial sector also has essential and non-essential. And I'll give you a quick thing about the story in there. People would work on these different things all in silos and think that cybersecurity was, it's really important. I got to do these cyber audits. It's like, well, why do you exist? You don't exist to be cyber compliant. You exist to help this company sell more things. We sell widgets. You need to help us get more widgets out the door. And it isn't by shutting down the business or marketing side of the company by cyber rules. It's by figuring out how to maximize what you're doing in cyber to help. It doesn't mean get rid of cyber, right? So there's this balance. But essential versus non-essential, that's just a normal business activity. Even nonprofits have that. We need to prioritize what we're spending money on. The Army in particular, they have one overarching purpose. The Army exists to fight and win this nation's wars, right? They say this over and over again in their strategic documents. In fact, let me just show you this really quick. Go over when you get a chance. Don't do it at the moment. But if you go over to this Army website, the Army Vision and Strategy, if you start coming down, you'll see, let me switch over myself, trying to scroll in the wrong place. You'll see at the army.mil/about, they've got their focus areas, their map to success, these different strategic documents talking about, posture statement, how they're modernizing, and where's the one? Multi-domain transformation. These kind of things are really important to understand out there. And so inside of that overarching thing, existing to fight and win wars, the Army has these five, what I put together, right? And these could align pretty well with the Army, but this is my take on the Army's essential function areas, right? The first is combat readiness and warfighting capability. This means going to war. If our whole agency's purpose is to win wars, then that number one should make sense. The second one here is essential training and leadership development. And this is an interesting one when I was preparing the slides and thinking about it, is if you've been watching what's going on with DOGE, you watch these different training contracts get cut. I watched the Secretary of the VA yesterday, day before, whatever it was, getting on talking about how he had just canceled these training sessions or training contracts. If you need training, go to your supervisor. If your supervisor's not able to help you, come to me. I mean, I wish I was in the VA just so I could go test that process out of going, okay, boss, train me. But anyways, essential training at the VA is not at that headquarter level. That's why he's cutting it. But it is down at the lower levels. And for the Army, essential training and leadership development is around the soldiers, the officers and the non-commissioned officers. The way we constantly train for war. One of my favorite, if you don't know this, I joined the Army because of the first Iraq war. So a long, long time ago, even though I look really young. A long, long time ago, I joined. And one of the reasons we were able to get in and win so fast was because we trained harder than the war was then. The second war was a whole another challenge. But basically, the American military trains like we're at war, where other countries, they might not even use live ammunition, right? And so this second one is around making sure the soldiers and the leaders within the Army are prepared to go fight and win the nation's war. The third one is logistics, sustainment, and force projection. Fundamentally, this is making sure that the Army that's going to fight those wars has the bullets and the guns, the fuel, the vehicles, et cetera, that they need. They have the uniforms, the cold weather gear, the warm weather gear. They have what they need to be able to not just go to one war, but if you look at where the military is trying to protect against or go fight against, it's across the board. And so this is a really huge one. And it's not just about supplies and you selling parts and products, right? It's the whole supply chain. It's thinking about digital twins and how you can make the logistics or the supply chain more efficient. So there's all sorts of things. I'll talk more about that. Core combat capabilities and modernization. So the Army has to constantly be modernizing itself to fight tomorrow's wars, not yesterday's wars. And that's kind of the idea here. And the last one I put is just miscellaneous other really important things. But like intelligence, right? This is important. If you don't know this, every military department also has its own intelligent component, just like the CIA or the NSA. They have it inside DOD. So that cybersecurity and the people themselves, just training and developing the people, again, for tomorrow's fight, not yesterday's fight. So from a high level, this is the Army essential or mission critical task areas, function areas. What you need to do is to go in there and study this yourself, right? I don't sell to the Army. I coach people who are going in. I've done my time, right? But I still go in there and learn what they're doing. When they put stuff out, I go look at it. I'm going to show you in a second some more of how I do that. But make time to research. Research is the number one step in the 7-step process for federal revenue success that I teach people. So if that makes sense that you need to research the Army, put research into the chat. Just let me know you're tracking. Research. You need to research and understand who they are. So here are just really quickly some non-essential things while you're doing that. And I think maybe you've been seeing this, but administrative or headquarter overhead work, you can go back and see previous cuts where the Army had to do it, and they show where they cut people. Legacy systems or low priority programs. These are ones that are not mission critical out there. These are ones that are still sitting around. This is what you see a lot of what DOGE is trying to go after right now, frankly. Non-urgent procurement and infrastructure stuff. So might be buildings that are being built. So it might be on the construction side, services side, et cetera. And then staff support and miscellany. At the beginning of this training today, I just said that DOGE is cutting, or GSA, but through DOGE, is cutting $65 billion worth of large prime contractor consulting contracts. And basically that's what they're talking about, is this huge pool of people. Interestingly, and I don't say this in the next slide, so I'll just say it really quick. One of the tactics to dealing with this is to try to go figure out how you can take your people, if they're in something like this that's going to get hit, and go insert yourself into an essential program area or program office, because you were probably providing value, but just sitting out here this way as a contract might not be effective to keep the contract. But if you're in with a program office that's doing mission critical and not doing cuts, maybe they still have the need. It just needs to be changed. Keep that in mind as you go forward. All right, so those are essential, non-essential type work. I just want to track my time. I only got 10 minutes left. Here's how I would protect a current contract that I have. This is what I tell the current customers that I have. is first thing is you need to align what you do to the agency's mission and priorities. So the first stage is researching that, and I talked about it. But if you understand the agency's mission priorities, like the Army's 5 priorities that I mentioned, where do you fit into those? You need to be able to figure out where you can fit in. You can't just say, I do cyber. You can't just say, I do facility maintenance or something. Whatever it is, you can't say, I just do a broad thing. You got to sit there and say, we help you accomplish this area. And this is really important because you want to tie your contracts in the Army back to that essential readiness and modernization that they're trying to do. When you align it to the priorities, you're able to do this so much easier. If you haven't heard this talk being done from DOGE, and especially Elon Musk, he sent out an email, said, hey, everybody, including now DOD, send us 5 bullet points of what you did last week. Basically, tell me what you're doing last week. And what I'm suggesting is when you read this mission critical stuff, make sure not just you who's here today, but everybody in your company who's working on an Army project, for example, use mission critical languages in your quarterly or monthly or weekly reports. Use them in your last 5 things you've done. DOGE is starting to read this stuff. DOGE is building AI tools that will start analyzing this. This is basically like SEO optimization to a degree. If you know people are going to be searching for how to be a government contractor, like I might look, to find you, well, start using their language. And when they look, they go, well, these guys look like they're doing the same thing we are. It's like, okay, now you've got it. Compared to take diversity out of your language. The last one there is document why your contract's essential. This is really important. I talk about this a lot, about DOGE on yourself. Go all DOGE on yourself. You want to document yourself. Don't let DOGE or anybody else come in and ask you or do it. Do it now. Do it today. Literally, we're moving at a daily sense of urgency. If you've got a contract that hasn't been lost, immediately sit there and document why your contract is essential to the agency. Align it to those priorities. Talk with your core, the KO, the program managers. Nobody in that agency, except for DOGE, wants to get rid of the contract. But if they can't protect it, they have to get rid of it. And so talk with them. Talk about why is it valuable to you? This is why we think it's valuable, right? This is coaching your customers. Sometimes you do it before the sale. At the moment, you need to do it to continue keeping that contract. And then make sure you engage your subcontractors completely. Everybody who's working on your contract, talk to them. What are you doing that's critical? Give them guidance. Say, hey, here's what the Army's critical priorities are. How do we align to that? How does what you do align to that? One last bullet I had here is designate a Doger in your company and then role play. What I mean is, I wish everybody had seen this movie called World War X or World War Z. I can't remember. World War Z, I think it is. Brad Pitt movie. But the idea is it's a zombie movie. Oh, so Z. It's a zombie movie. And basically, Israel is the only one protected from all these zombies. And when Brad Pitt goes there, and I hope I'm not, it's a spoiler alert, but he's like, hey, how'd you guys protect yourself? And this guy who's like really part of the intelligence apparatus, he goes, well, I showed up late to a meeting and I'm the 10th guy. And what it meant was Israel put in place this rule that says, and I don't know if it's real or if it's just in the movie, but I loved it. They put in this 10-man rule saying, if 9 people agree, the 10th person has to be the opposite agreement and they get full funding to operate on that. And so 9 people said, zombies, you're crazy. And the 10th guy went, damn it. Okay, zombies it is. And he built a wall around Israel that kept the zombies out. And so I want you to do that same thing, right? Is have somebody in your company as the 10th man who goes, I'm going to get rid of the contract and I'm going to sit there and figure out why. Inside your company, and now you guys role play it. Don't let Elon Musk or DOGE come in and do this to you. Do it to yourself and then figure out how to protect your contract from getting axed. All right, 6 minutes left. Here's a couple of steps I want to give you on how you can find opportunities. Now, this is going to be guidance. I'll keep changing week after week as what happens in the federal market changes. It literally is changing daily. But what I'm going to give you is pretty standard that should last us for a few months. The first thing is make sure you map your products and services, what you sell. Make sure you map that to the mission critical function areas of the Army, right? Be essential to the Army. Make sure that you do that exercise I talked about with if you already have a contract. Make sure you're doing that with your products, right? And if you don't have something good, then create something. I have one here where I was talking about this earlier. I have a friend in the community. He's a PhD in AI. So if you need AI help, reach out to me and I'll introduce you. But he is His name's Amit. He might even be in the chat. But anyways, Amit was talking about how he does these AI things. I was trying to give him guidance on where he was at. And he goes, well, really what I do is like human behavior and training. And he was talking somewhere else. And I said, well, if we look at the Army, then I need people to train when somebody is marching on a field in basic training. I need to get more of my soldiers trained and out the door so they're in a unit. And I need to spend less of my drill sergeant's time with some of this remedial training. I was like, can't you just build an AI solution that's on the iPads that are on a parade ground with an iPod, whatever it's called, like headphones, that tells the soldier, you march this way, wrong way, and keep correcting them until they get it done. You don't need a trainer or a person guiding them, so you don't have to boot them out of the Army because they can't march straight or they can't throw a grenade, right? AI can begin to train, and this is just what I mean. One teeny example where I took a person who had skill set over here, and I said, no, bring it over here and align to their mission. Their mission is I need soldiers who can throw grenades and march straight, right? They can do whatever they need to do. Second thing, align to mission critical functions. Align those functions, right? If I go research those 5 things I said earlier and say this is what the Army does, I need to go find out who are the major commands within the Army that are doing that, and then work my way down to subordinate commands and program offices. I need to find out who that is. Number 3, update your marketing assets to be mission critical and to use mission critical language. When you find those organizations, they put out documents, or they have websites. You can see how they talk about their own mission criticality. Weave that into your marketing assets like LinkedIn or capability statement or website or your capability briefing deck. Number 4, this is the fun part. Step 2 in the 7-step process after research is targeting. Identify 200 people in those offices, right, within the Army. This is called targeting. When you find those people, you've built a list of 200 people who are related to mission critical work, essential work that the Army is doing. That's who you're going to reach out to in step number 5. Schedule intro calls, reach out to them, try to connect with them on LinkedIn, try to figure out where they're at. Be very prepared in your research. So when you talk to them, you're not going, hey, do you got an opportunity? You're talking because they're as nervous as we are, right? How do we make sure we're valid or essential? Be prepared to have the conversation. If you're not, just team up with a company that is, and just bring your skill set to that company that maybe is a little better at talking to the client. Number 6, last one is follow the Army Contracting Command on SAM. I want to show you really quick. Let me switch over here. Come on. I have these 2 posts I did. Let me close these. I have these 2 posts that I did. One is Army Contracting Command, Aberdeen Proving Grounds. This 11 slides that's talking about industry update on December. And this one, this one. And so you just view my profile and come on in and look at it. But this one, Army Contracting Command, Aberdeen Proving Ground, this is where they took all their divisions. And so you can see that there's 45 slides. The reason I'm pointing these out is because inside these slides, when you go look, they talk about obviously what's important to them. They provide you all sorts of people, like 50 people for that second deck. But they also provide links into SAM where they say inside of SAM, every month we update SAM. And it's like they just put out a new post on LinkedIn, except for they do it in SAM. Make sure that when you're targeting into the Army, figure out which command, contracting command, is selling for the program office, or buying for the program office, and make sure you're following that division. Again, that's a lot to say right now. Go look at those 2 posts. All you have to do is go into LinkedIn, type Neil McDonald Army, and you should find them come up pretty quickly. All right, I know this is super fast. It's a fire hose 30 minutes. Here's what I want you to remember. First off, you can watch the replay. The second thing, the first thing is know what's essential in the Army, right? They go and fight and win the nation's wars. And here are the priority mission critical function areas that they focus on. Know what those are, and then speak that essential language that they're talking about in everything you do, in your language, in your LinkedIn posts, in your marketing assets. And then the last thing is 10x your efforts. This is a sales tip for you through and through. Anytime sales is tough or a company is struggling, and I would submit everybody's struggling because even if you haven't dropped yet, you're worried about dropping, right? When times are tough, sales needs to increase by 10 times. That means 10 times the research, 10 times the phone calls, etc. If you understand that, put 10x in the chat, just 10x in the chat. Check out govconinAbox.com if you want to find opportunities and RFIs. We've got them listed out there. But most importantly, go to govconinAbox.com and make sure you're visible to federal buyers. You can learn more there. Okay, we're out of time, but I do want to just tell you and remind you that government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is coming back to training. I'll be back tomorrow talking about DHS. I'll see you then.